everybody. It's Rich, and welcome back to the Family Matters in Marshfield podcast. This is the podcast where we dive into all things family. My name's Rich. I'm your host. I'm also the pastor here at First Baptist Church in town. Been working with kids and teenagers and families for over 30 years, and so I really do care how we can help our families here in our community not just survive, but how can we help our families thrive. In this podcast, you're going to find a lot of practical ideas, a lot of practical things that will inspire you, encourage you. More than likely, what they're going to do is they're going to spark your own ideas so that you can move into the relationship with your kids or with your spouse. And so this is intended to be very, very practical. Our goal is to create valuable insights, share some tips. We'll also include other people from around our community into the conversation about families here in our community. We really are for the families in Marshfield. In this episode today, what we're going to be talking about is how do we say yes to the next generation? What does that look like in our community? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at 4 different groups of people that it takes to say yes to the next generation in our community. And so if you're a mom or a dad or a husband or a wife, you're looking at this and you're trying to figure out what are the different pieces you need to put into your child or your teenager's life. Well, today I'm going to share some of those with you. So let's jump in and let's get started with today's episode. As we're saying yes to the next generation, the first group of people that need to be in a child or a teenager's life are parents. Parents are the most important influence in a child's life. One of the things that I've recognized years ago when I was a children's pastor is that when kids are in preschool, the window of influence is huge. It's massive. Preschoolers are looking to parents for their influence for everything they need, everything they want, everything they desire, and how fast they can get it comes from their parents. As they as they move to elementary school, it's still a massive size window, but it gets a little bit smaller as they get to be 4th, 5th grade. Maybe it's shrinking, and you're seeing the window of influence with peers beginning to grow. You're also seeing the window of influence that goes to marketing from all of the things that our kids see on TV, anything they may see while they're playing a game on their tablet, or any TikToks, or anything they're looking at is influencing them. And that window is getting larger while the parents is getting smaller. But still, even in those upper elementary age years, the window of influence is massive for the parent. And then when they get into middle school, the window shrinks, and then to high school, the window still shrinks. But one of the things I want to say, even in those middle school and high school years, parents still have a significant window of influence. One of the things that I think that helps grow that window of influence when your child is in their teenage years is how much do you embrace the conversations and embrace the relationship while they're younger. If you will embrace all of their questions, if you'll move into all of their activities and you'll participate while they're younger, and you'll move into that, you have a much stronger likelihood that that window of influence as the teenage years can still stay in a pretty large point. But the truth is that window of influence for a parent always shrinks. But if you're a parent of a teenager, you need to know you still have influence, you still have guidance, and you still have direction. They need you. Matter of fact, there's a lot of teenagers where there are no boundaries. You may look at their rebellion, and what you see, what you could potentially see, and what I think you do see is what they're doing is they're craving that someone would move in and love them enough to create some boundaries. And so I just want to encourage you, moms and dads, don't fear that you're not going to have influence, and so you don't know what to do, and you just tiptoe around it. Yeah, we've got to be appropriate with our teenagers, but you still have a significant influence in your teenager's life, even though that peer window gets really large, and even though the marketing window in their life gets really large, you still have a significant voice. And so, moms and dads, I want you to know that if we're going to say yes to the next generation in our community, we have to value the role of parenting. And that means we work on our craft as parents. Parenting isn't easy. Parenting isn't just getting to make the rules and making everybody obey. That's what kids think parenting is. But it's not that. It's hard. We have to work on our parenting. We have to work on the fruit that comes out of our life because nothing can push our parenting more than sometimes coming home from a hard day of work or a frustrating day or having a frustrating moment and then having to do certain things, and we may be impatient, we may lash out, we may produce the fruit that we don't want in our kids, but yet we dismiss it. So we've got to work on those things, but we have to press in and work on our parenting. It's not all natural. How do we do that? Well, active listening. We need to practice active listening. We need to practice having conversations within our houses. And it doesn't matter if they're preschoolers, elementary, or teenagers. You need to have family conversations. You need to be able to laugh. You need to be able to joke. But you also need to be able to have very important conversations and to be able to dialogue back and forth. You need to encourage your kids to be able to stand on their own feet, to encourage their independence, at the same time helping them navigate what that looks like and what that means. We need to help them and we need to celebrate them. We need to listen to the things they're saying. And so I want to encourage you as parents. You have a significant voice, more significant than you can ever imagine. And if we're going to say yes to the next generation in our community, it's going to take moms and dads, encouraging moms and dads to be moms and dads that are engaged in their kids and their teenagers' life. Don't push back. Don't pass that off to somebody else. Press in. Kids need your influence. Don't pass the baton to someone else and give them that influence that is yours. You'll always regret it if you do. Let's press in as parents. The second group of people that have a significant amount of influence or can have an influence. If we're going to say yes to the next generation, then we need churches in our community that will say yes to the next generation. One of the things that's very, very important to me in our church is I want to do everything we can to care for our senior adults, to value our senior adults. To provide pastoral care, to be able to listen and make sure they're seen and heard and a part of the church family. But I want to do everything I can to do anything to reach and disciple the next generation, to help the next generation. And so churches in our community have to move towards the next generation. That means it's going to require some change. It's going to require some adjustments. It's going to change our mindsets. We have to be willing. And the best thing that can happen is when parents and grandparents will press in and say, let's do whatever it takes to reach and disciple the next generation. We need youth groups, student ministries in our churches to create environments that kids want to be. But then we need to be able to talk with them, not at them. We need to let them know they are important and they're valuable. We need to listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're not saying. We need to create volunteer opportunities. One of the best ways that we can say yes to the next generation is that we can empower them to volunteer in significant ways. There's a stat that's been flying around for, maybe 5-10 years now. And it's talking about how many kids grow up in our churches and walk away and never come back. And anywhere from 60 to 80% of teenagers, they say, grow up in our churches and they leave when they go to college and they don't come back. Well, one of the best things you can do to help kids, and the studies have shown where they've studied teenagers that stayed in the church, what were some of the things that kept them? And one of them was when they were a child and a teenager, they had significant service in the life of the church. And so we've got to find ways to let them lead, let them serve. And it's not just like go sit in, you can help in the kids' room, but go sit on the side and you can help cut out. No, teenagers can sit around and they can teach the lesson. They can study and they can pray. Matter of fact, what better way for a mom or a dad to come alongside their teenager than to study the lesson during the week together? That's discipleship, life on life discipleship, and then go on Sunday and teach it, volunteering and empowering our teenagers to lead. And here's where I want to leave this, church leaders, parents in churches. Kids are studying some pretty heavy stuff at school. The school recognizes that kids can study some heavy stuff. They can study biology, they can study chemistry, they can study calculus, they can study all of these various things. And so what that tells me is we don't have to water down the doctrine and the gospel. They can handle that. And so I want to encourage us as church leaders is to not just baby our teenagers and only create fun places. Now, we need to have fun and we need to create a place that they want to be, because I'd rather them want to be here on Wednesday or Sunday or an event than other places they can be. If they don't show up, if they don't want to be here, they're not going to be here. And if they're not here, then I lose my influence. But we need to give them and we need to help them handle some significant truths. They're not just the church of the future, they're the church of the day. And so if we're going to say yes to the next generation in our community, we have to have churches that will commit and sacrifice for the next generation. I want to take a quick minute just to let you know that with your family, there are a lot of good churches in town. And I just want to encourage you, if you don't have one, you need to value that, not just for yourself and your own relationship with God and following Jesus, because it really does change everything in your life. Not just for your spouse and not just for your kids, but for your whole family together to value that. And there are several good churches in town. If you don't have one, I want to invite you. You're welcome to come and join us on any Sunday. If you want to know what First Baptist is like, we're like a big family reunion. We've got people of all ages, from the youngest to the oldest, all mixed together. My wife and I, we teach a young couples class. That's for the couples in their 20s and 30s. And so you're welcome to come join us any Sunday. There's anywhere from 18 to 24 of us that gather to study the Bible, to pray for one another. We've got groups for parents of teenagers. We've got groups for empty nesters. We've got groups for early retired. And we've got groups from people who've been retired for a long time. We are really one big family. While that's going on, your kids and teenagers get to do exactly what we just talked about, have another voice in their life to encourage them, to teach them. And so I want to encourage you to prioritize finding a church family, get involved, stay involved, and I really do believe it'll make a difference within your home. The third group of people that have to move towards, that we need to move towards our kids and our teenagers, and that's our educators, that's our teachers. The reality is that probably during the school year, from middle of August to the middle of May, probably no one spends more time with your kids and your teenagers than the educators in our community. And so we have to value the relationships that we have with them. I know sometimes it creates some stress, and I know sometimes there's some strain. I know sometimes there's some disagreement, but moms and dads, community leaders, if we're going to say yes to the next generation, then we have to push and press in towards these relationships that we have with our kids' teachers. Parents need great teachers, and teachers need great parents. We are better together. And so I want to encourage you, moms and dads, to push towards getting to know your child's teacher, to push towards asking questions. You know, one of the best questions you can ask your child's teacher, whether they're in elementary school or even as they get older, is just simply typing an email or however they've told you to communicate with them and say, hey, just want you to know I'm thinking about you. How can I help? What are 3 things I could do that can help you? You know, that opens up the relationship. When you ask the question, how can I help? You know, sometimes as a leader, I've had people offer to help with some specific things, and the truth is I didn't really need help with those things. I needed help in a different area. You know, I think sometimes we do that with our teachers. We think, well, I'll volunteer to do this and I'll volunteer to do that, and that may be exactly what your child's teacher needs, but it might not be. They may need something else completely. And so I want to encourage you, shoot off an email, communicate to your child's teacher, and just ask the question, how can I help? But don't just ask it once. Ask it every month. Hey, is there anything I can do to help this month? Hey, just want you to know I'm thinking about you. I'm thankful for you. If you have questions or there are concerns, don't make assumptions too fast. One of the things as a parent of 3 kids, one in mid-20s and one at 19 and one as a sophomore in high school, over the years, there have been times where I've made assumptions about things with teachers or coaches or other things. And you know what? I was wrong. And so what if we can just leave the assumptions we have until we have communication? And, you know, our tone, the way we communicate, the way we ask our questions, and the questions we ask can create the opportunity for us to have better relationships with the teachers in our community. And so I just want to encourage you, push towards helping your kids with their homework. Push towards encouraging them to participate within the class. And push towards the relationship that you have with your child's teacher. Parents and teachers, we are better together. The last group of people that we need in our community, if we're going to say yes to the next generation, is coaches and band leaders and choir leaders and extracurricular activity leaders, mentors. We need these coaches and these leaders and these mentors in our child's lives. Our childs are healthy when they are participating in their hobbies, when they're participating in their activities. There's so many things that are learned from being on the field. There's so many things that are learned from going through the grind of having to practice the instrument over and over and over again, or the discipline of having to memorize the lines for the play, and learning to rely on the people around you for success. We need these coaches, we need these leaders, we need these mentors in our children's life. And so I want to encourage you to push your kids to find something to participate in. And when they do, value the relationship and the voice of the coach or the leader that is in your child's life. There's a high likelihood that they're going to teach your child something that they need to know, and they may not learn it just growing up in your house. And so I want to encourage you to lean into these relationships. What are some things that this can look like? It can look like helping your child set goals to fulfill the accomplishments that's set before them from this activity. from them learning to have to listen to what's being said by the coach or the choir leader, to be able to receive the feedback in various ways, because one of the days they're going to be working for a boss, and that person may not be just a cherry on top communicator. They may be direct. They may push. And so our kids need these voices to help prepare them and equip them for the real world. These things give them leadership opportunities. They can watch how these leaders, these coaches and mentors lead in their lives, so that they can then model what leadership might look like. And then they get to support one another as teammates. And so the kids need coaches, band leaders, choir leaders, mentors in their lives. If we're going to say yes to the next generation, we need these men and these women to press into our kids' lives. As you can see, if we're going to say yes to the next generation, it takes a lot of different people and a lot of different voices pushing into our kids and our teenagers' lives. I want to encourage you to invite these people in, to value those relationships and find ways to strengthen them within your child or your teenager's life. Let me give you a kind of a bonus tip. Ask your child or your teenager if they had something that they needed to talk to an adult about, and it wasn't you, who would they go and talk to? You see, there's going to come a day where your child or your teenager may feel like they can't talk to you about something. And before you get too excited and push back and go, my kids always are going to talk to me. My teenagers, they tell me everything. I just want to ask you the question. When you were a teenager, did you tell your mom and dad everything? I think you didn't. And the same will happen with your kids. And so if you can help them find these other voices that will give them advice and direction, to maybe not be the exact same thing you would say, but you can trust that voice. We've asked our kids this question, and they've all given us different people. Usually that person comes from church, whether it's a student pastor or a small group leader. But these voices are voices that we trust to give good, sound advice. Because I know there's going to come a day where they're not going to talk to me about something, and they're going to need some input, and they're going to need some advice from somebody. And I know in advance who they're going to go to. Makes a difference. I encourage you to begin that conversation with your child or your teenager a little earlier than you think, because that day's going to sneak up on you, and you may not be ready for it. So I'm excited about what is going on in the life of our community. This week, I've been to a couple of different volleyball games. I've been to soccer. I've been to football. I've been to JV football. I'm looking forward to the varsity football game on Friday night, and probably catch a softball game on Thursday. One of the things I value as a pastor, I want to model what I've just talked about as church leaders. I try to go see every single one of our kids, or every single one of our teenagers do what they enjoy doing. I want to be able to participate, and I value that. And so I would encourage you, be active in our community. There's a lot of things going on. Find ways to go watch, go participate. Take your kids, your boys, your girls, to go see the high schoolers play. It will make a difference as they begin to view and value the athletes, the actors, the band members in our community, the choir in our community. And so let's recognize the value of together in our community. I'll see you next time on Family Matters in Marshfield.